Philadelphia Eagles beat the Carolina Panthers this last Sunday to go on to their 9th straight win, so everything should be good, right?
Scoring! It's a touchdown to Calcaterra! Who?
Except for the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles only had 83 net passing yards against one of the worst teams in the NFL. And this came a week after only gaining 112 net passing yards against the worst statistical passing defense in the entire league in the Baltimore Ravens. In this season alone, the Eagles have played against 6 of the 8 worst pass defenses in the league as far as yards allowed, as the team's total net passing yards was 112 against the Ravens, 114 against the Bucs, 167 against the Rams, 210 against the Jaguars, 236 against the Bengals, and their best was 288 against the Saints, which on average is 188 yards passing per game against some of the worst pass defenses in the entire NFL. Star receiver A.J. Brown made headlines when he was asked what was wrong with the offense.
What are some things you think that the offense needs to improve on?
Which many people took as a shot at his quarterback in Jalen Hurts. But when Jalen Hurts was asked the same questions at the press conference, he pointed the fingers at the coaching.
Where AJ feels like he's getting enough Devontae analysis.
I play my role in it and how we execute, but ultimately it's about what position we put ourselves in. But it's not my choice.
While some teammates have even come out and publicly said that there's an issue in the locker room.
They was friends before this. It's like, man, but things have changed because we know it's an issue. Everybody's seeing some things, but we need to let personal stuff go.
So in today's video, I'm going to investigate all this to find out what's wrong with the Eagles' passing game. Is it on the coaches or the players? Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts is not the flashiest guy in the world.
I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion.
But he's been one of the most controversial and polarizing figures in the NFL, as people have been asking the question of just how good Jalen Hurts is going all the way back to his days in Alabama, where Jalen Hurts was a 4-star recruit in 2016 and became the full-time starter by the second week of the season, becoming the first true freshman to start at quarterback for Alabama in 32 years since Vince Sutton in 1984. And Hurts definitely made the most of his opportunity, as he passed for the most passing yards in Alabama history in the debut of a starting quarterback with 287 yards. But that was only the beginning of an historic freshman season, as he went on to break several school records, including 36 total touchdowns, breaking the previous record of 35, 954 rushing yards, breaking the previous record of 791, and ultimately being named the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, as he led Alabama to a perfect 14-0 record and a berth in the college football. While Deshaun Watson would declare for the NFL draft, Jalen Hurts would return for his 2018 season and would again take Alabama back to the national championship game behind a 12-1 record. But it was announced that for the second half, backup quarterback Tua Tagovailoa would start the rest of the game, as he would ultimately lead them to victory in over. The following offseason, he lost a quarterback battle with Tua Tagovailoa and was officially the backup quarterback for Alabama, before he was called upon to replace Tua in the 2018 SEC championship game, only this time due to injury.
Jalen Hurts is starting to warm up.
He never did get his starting job back from Tua Tagovailoa, so the following year he transferred to Oklahoma to take over as a starting quarterback once former Heisman winner Kyler Murray went to the NFL as the #1 pick.
The Arizona Cardinals select Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma,
who took over for Baker Mayfield, who also won the Heisman in 2017 and went #1 in the NFL draft as well.
The Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield, quarterback, Oklahoma.
So everything was set up for Jalen Hurts to be the 3rd straight quarterback from Oklahoma to win the Heisman, as he put up pretty much the exact same record, passing yards, and touchdowns as the previous 2 winners.
Yeah, almost looked like he passed that ball behind his back whenever he was in the grasp there.
And he probably would have won the Heisman too if it wasn't for Joe Burrow coming out of absolutely nowhere to put up one of the best statistical performances of any college football quarterback in NCAA history.
He's thrown for 7 and now he's rushed for 1.
By breaking the record for most total touchdowns with 65, as well as the highest passer rating in college football history, as he finished 2nd in Heisman voting. But his biggest challenge was going to be to convince NFL teams that he's the player that almost won the Heisman in Oklahoma, and not the player who got benched in Alabama in the national championship game. And he was also facing a lot of competition with one of the most loaded draft classes in NFL history, with Joe Burrow going number 1 overall to the Bengals, his former teammate Tua Tagovailoa going number 5 to the Dolphins, Justin Herbert going number 6 to the San Diego Chargers, and Jordan Love being drafted by the Packers 26th overall. And considering the 2 quarterbacks that he succeeded at Oklahoma both were drafted number 1, and the quarterback that took his starting job in Alabama was drafted 5th overall, it's fair to say that his draft stock was significantly hampered by the fact that he was benched in the national championship game in college, as Jalen Hurts almost slid to the 3rd round, getting drafted 53rd overall by the Philadelphia Eagles,
Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma,
who already had a starting quarterback with a massive contract in Carson Wentz.
This entire organization for believing in me from the moment, they traded up to get me.
And to say that this draft pick confused Eagles fans would be an understatement.
Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma. What the fuck? What? What the fuck? Oh! Oh my God!
And Carson Wentz had been showing signs of decline in previous years, as well as multiple stories about him not being a very good teammate or not being very coachable.
How was it playing with him? Because a lot of dudes didn't like playing with him. I remember Sproles used to come to me like, Jack, he is not hitting me. I'm in the flash, wide open. He has something going with Ertz.
They calling H choice, and I'm not the first read.
Right.
You lying.
For sure.
Man, I promise.
What?
I said
the place
man,
H Reed.
That's what I'm saying.
H
H Reed. I'm talking about you be wide open. He going to the tight end.
Did you ever say something to him?
Did I say something all the time? No, I'm open. It's H Reed. I'm the first read. But the thing about Carson was he didn't listen to coaching either though.
And it all came into a culmination when he completely fell apart in 2020 and eventually got benched week 13 against the Green Bay Packers, allowing Jalen Hurts to make his first appearance in game, and he never looked back.
I have come to a decision, and I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts this week against New Orleans.
And the Eagles were facing the hottest team in the NFL, but just like his first game in Alabama, he showed that he belonged right away.
Has the first down. Let him just put it away for the Eagles. Touchdown.
New Orleans' 9-game winning streak about to come to an end. The debut of Jalen Hurts.
The Philadelphia Eagles still had a long way to go as far as putting talent around him, as he went 9-8 the next year, ultimately losing to a much more talented Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that went on to win the Super Bowl. And that help came in next year's draft in the form of a trade.
Let's go! How about this trade that just went down?
And this trade was not a coincidence, as A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts have been friends for a very long time.
John Robinson with the Tennessee Titans. You remember me? Yes, sir.
In fact, when A.J. Brown got drafted, Jalen Hurts was right there to celebrate with him. And they were celebrating even more when they became teammates.
Hey, let's do it, man. Hey.
So how did they go from this to this?
Passing.
As longtime veteran and team leader Brandon Graham recently made headlines commenting how he thinks their relationship has deteriorated.
They was friends before this. It's man, but things have changed because we know it's an issue. Everybody's seeing some things, but we need to let personal stuff go.
And he has since walked those comments back.
I want to start off by just, apologizing to my guys. I made the assumption. I didn't know all the details, and I still don't.
There was also interviews from A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and Nick Sirianni, all saying that there was no issue.
BG was just being BG. He's emotional. In that case, he just misspoke. Me and Jalen are good.
But to a certain extent, this also felt very coordinated, as I'm sure that everyone that was involved is in agreement that it's better to keep this stuff inside the locker room and to try to quell these distractions. But whatever Brandon Graham was seeing might not have been anything out of the ordinary, as former backup quarterback and teammate Gardner Minshew said that Hurts and Brown argue like an old married couple, as they're obviously close but they bicker as well. So even if their relationship has strained a bit, it's hard to believe that they're not friends anymore, considering that A.J. Brown literally made Jalen Hurts godfather to his daughter Jersey. So I can't imagine what it will realistically take to break up a friendship that's this close. But there's no doubt about it that A.J. Brown has benefited from this relationship, as he went from a Pro Bowl receiver in the Tennessee Titans who got about 1,000 yards a year to an all-pro receiver in Philadelphia catching balls from Jalen Hurts. That is until recently. For the season, the Eagles actually have the 3rd lowest amount of passing yards in the entire league, and the 4 teams around them in the bottom 5 all had to replace their quarterback at some point in the season. As the Patriots started the season with Jacoby Brissett before switching to Drake May, the Panthers started their season with Bryce Young before switching to Andy Dalton and ultimately switching back to Bryce Young. The Tennessee Titans have gone back and forth between Will Levis and Mason Rudolph.
You make sure they remember the night they played the Titans.
And the New York Giants flat out cut Daniel Jones, electing to go with a combination of Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock. But the biggest difference between these top 5 teams is the quarterback rating, as the Eagles' quarterback rating is much higher at a 101.8, which is good enough for 5th best in the entire NFL, behind only Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, Sam Darnold of the Minnesota Vikings, and Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, all 4 of which are literally having MVP caliber seasons with the exception of Joe Burrow, who is literally leading the NFL in both passing yards and touchdowns at the time of this video. So why are the Philadelphia Eagles in the bottom 5 in passing if their quarterback rating is so high? Well, the truth is because they're not throwing the ball at all, as they've attempted a league-low 328 attempts this season, which is almost 40 less than the next team in the Green Bay Packers. So why don't they pass the ball more? Is it that they don't trust Jalen Hurts?
Intercepted!
As Jalen Hurts faced a lot of offseason criticism coming into this season after the 2023 season fell apart, where the Philadelphia Eagles lost 6 of their last 7 games, and even had local media suggesting that he might lose his starting job.
He needs to have a good year, or they're going to Carson Wentz him.
He needs to play better. He took a step back last year.
Or is it more likely that they have an MVP caliber running back running behind one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL?
You didn't even think to do that.
The truth is, it probably doesn't have to do with either one of those, as it has more to do with winning.
Typically run the ball so effectively in these spots.
In fact, if we look at the top 10 teams in the league with the least amount of passing attempts on the season, they have a combined record of 89 and 41. While if we look at the top 10 teams with the most attempts on the season, they have a combined record of 54 and 76, as teams that are ahead typically run the ball more compared to teams that are behind who have to pass more to come back. But a lack of attempts can definitely have a negative effect on a passing game.
How hard is it as a receiver to get into a rhythm when you guys are only throwing the ball like 20 times?
Incredibly tough,
as the Eagles are passing less and less as the season goes on. 4 weeks ago on Thursday, when they were playing the Washington Commanders for the lead in the NFC East, Jalen Hurts attempted 28 passes. The following week in a blowout win over the Los Angeles Rams, Jalen Hurts' attempts dropped to 22, before only attempting 19 passes in a close game with the Baltimore Ravens. And then last week against Carolina, attempting 21. But when the Eagles do pass the ball, they're one of the best passing offenses in the entire league, as they have the 6th highest pass per play, despite having the least amount of passing attempts in the entire NFL. And even though Jalen Hurts didn't have his best game, he definitely played good in crunch time, as Jalen Hurts put up a 10 for 13 effort with 71 passing yards, 58 rushing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown when the Eagles were trailing, which is pretty much how he's played his entire career, as Jalen Hurts is literally the comeback king, as he owns the NFL record for most comeback victories in a row when trailing by 10 or more points. He also plays his best against the best teams, as he has an NFL record 13 consecutive wins against teams with winning record, breaking a tie with Peyton Manning and Vinny Testaverde for most in NFL history. And with his win on Sunday, he also became the first quarterback since 1950 to have 3 winning streaks of 9 or more games in the first 5 years of his career. And he already recorded 2 11-game win streaks in back-to-back seasons, as he literally has the best record in the NFL since 2022. He's also playing really well during their current win streak, as he has 25 touchdowns and only 1 interception in the last 10 weeks. And let's not forget about his Super Bowl performance where Travis Kelce said that he could have been the MVP.
Arguably could have had the MVP.
27 of 38, 374 total yards, 70 rushing yards, most by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. 4 total touchdowns. The 3 rushing are the most by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. So he was doing some unbelievable things.
So it's kind of difficult to think that this relationship has strained, and it's also difficult to think that A.J. Brown has lost confidence in his quarterback, but it does sound like he's signaling to the coaching staff to give him the ball more often, which Kellen Moore apparently heard, as he said publicly in a press conference that he's going to spend more time trying to get A.J. Brown the ball. As the Eagles coaching staff has been under fire all year, as they have the worst first quarter offense in the entire NFL, only scoring 1.3 points on average, which is typically the most prepared drives that the coaches have for the entire game. But only time will tell, so let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and other than that, thanks for watching.